In this lecture, we're going to handle the enemy's defeat. Luckily, most of our work has translated over to the enemy. Currently, I'm playing the game. If I were to fight an enemy, I'd eventually win. As you can see, the enemy falls and disappears. That's the exact behavior we were hoping for. However, there is one problem. After they've been defeated, we'll most likely run over to the next enemy. While that happens, the defeated enemy will chase us and rotate toward us. Let me show you a demonstration. As you can see, it's slightly awkward. We should fix this issue before moving on. I think creating a new state would work nicely. In the resource section of this lecture, I provide a link to a gist. The gist contains the starter code for the new state. To save time, I've decided to provide the code. All of it should be familiar to you. Inside the enter state method, we're logging a message to help us verify the state has been entered. By creating a new state, we don't have to worry about the enemy chasing, attacking, or rotating toward the player. Copy the code to your clipboard. Next, head over to Unity. In the scripts/character directory, create a new file called AI Defeated State. Open this file with Visual Studio Code. Replace the current code with the contents of the gist file. Our state is ready to go. The next step is to create a new instance of the state. If we don't, the enemy won't be able to transition into our new state. Open the enemy controller. Scroll to where we defined the new states. Below the list, create a new variable called defeated state. Set the type to AI defeated state. Lastly, set the value to a new instance of the AI defeated state class. The last step is to transition into this state. Thus far, we've been transitioning into states from other states. However, this state will be treated differently. Unlike the other states, enemies should be able to transition into this state regardless of what state they're in. Technically, we could update every state to handle the transition, but that would be inefficient. What if we had 10 or 20 states? We'd be copying and pasting code dozens of times, rather than handling the transition from each state. We'll define the method for handling the transition from the enemy controller. First, we must decide when to transition into the state. We should transition into the defeated state when the enemy is defeated. Open the health component. Let's create a custom event that other components can listen to. At the top of the file, add the Unity Engine.Events namespace to help us add custom events. Next, in the class, define a new event called onStartDefeated. Unlike the previous event, this event will be raised when the enemy is defeated. We're not going to wait for the animation to finish. Otherwise, the enemy will continue to be in another state. We should immediately transition into the new state upon defeat. Let's set the value of this event to an empty lambda expression. Next, let's update the defeated method. We should invoke the event during this method. Specifically, we should start the event after the first conditional statement. Let's add another conditional statement with the following condition. Compare tag constants.enemy tag. Before emitting the event, we should verify we're dealing with an enemy. Keep in mind, the help component can be found in players too. We're checking if the current game object is an enemy by checking their tag. If they are an enemy, let's call the onStartDefeated.invoke method. After emitting the event, we can start handling the event from the controller. Switch back to the enemy controller. As usual, we should register methods at the appropriate method. Below the start method, define the onEnable method. Inside this method, let's register a method called handleStartDefeated to the health component.onStartDefeated event. It's considered good practice to unregister methods. Let's unregister it from a method called onDisable. Inside the method, unregister the method from the event with the -= operator. The last step is to finally switch to the new state during this method. At the bottom of the class, define the handleStartDefeated method. Inside this method, call the switchState method to switch to the defeated state. Next, we should call this state's respective enterState method. We can do so through the currentState variable. Be sure to pass in the this keyword since the enterState method expects a reference to the controller. After making those changes, we've successfully transitioned into the defeated state. Let's try testing our game. Switch over to Unity to play the game. When the game starts, attempt to defeat an enemy. After they fall, I can run away without worrying about a defeated enemy chasing me. We've completely fixed the behavior. With that out of the way, we've successfully implemented a combat system into our game. It took a lot of work, but it was well worth it. Hopefully, you have a good idea of how to implement combat in Unity. We can use custom events and raycasts to help us hit enemies. In the next section, let's start working on the UI for our game. I'll see you there.